Hello, and welcome to The Gathering, a magic podcast. I'm here with some of my best friends to talk to you about our favorite game, Magic the Gathering. And today is episode 3. We are back. It has been a long time. That is 99.9% my fault. Just given that 0.01 because, 100% hard to commit to. But excited to be back. And Tarkir Dragonstorm is pretty fantastically exciting, especially if you're an aggro enjoyer, which most of my listeners probably are. But we're gonna hear some non-aggro takes as well, as we talk about what we like and what we don't like about Tarkir Dragonstorm in Standard. Um, Boy, it's been a while. The smooth transitions. They're gonna be a little rough, but I'll just go first. That feels easiest. Corey Steel Cutter is absurd, and I'm
Great.
so
Let's start with the
happy.
aggro card. Awesome.
Oh my gosh, I just like so happy. Um, when it was spoiled, I was like, man, that card looks really good. I'm excited. And then just slowly, the longer I sat with it, the more I was like, man, this looks really, really cool. And just right from, the first time casting, it was like, oh my gosh, this is nuts. Um, but Nick, hater of aggro, what
I don't know if I go that far.
no, of course not. But what's your favorite card so far? What's got you really
We're already
excited
done
about
talking
it?
about Corey Steelcutter?
We're gonna go back to it. I've been
We're
talking
going to
for
go back
so
to it?
long.
Okay.
We gotta get more
Ooh,
voices in.
putting me on the spot a little bit with this one. I think my favorite card from the set has to be Mox Jasper. Um, no, I just said that to see everyone's faces. Now the real answer is probably Desperate Measures if we're not
Yeah.
counting Corey Steelcutter. I love playing really bad leyline decks, and I think Desperate Measures allowed me to do that again. So that card's just very exciting when you have a leyline out, and when you don't have a leyline out, it's like a really bad removal spell, which is like a fine floor to have. So yeah, it's pretty fun casting that card. I like that card.
I couldn't agree more. It was on my short list. I really like it. It's just like a drug when you have a ley line out. When you don't, it's a little more pedestrian. But still, great card, great choice. Julianne, you're not gonna pick an aggro card. Talk to me.
I will not be picking an aggro card. I think my favorite card of the set so far. Ooh, it's tough. I want to say Ugin, but that's like obviously very good. So instead, I'm gonna say Rakshas's Bargain, which is
Hmm.
the
Okay, I expected that.
the Soul Tie hybrid mana, just because it's been making waves in Legacy already, which is a Beans playable format. And that card's really good with Up the Beanstalk and any sort of graveyard vibes you're trying
Wait,
to
wait.
do.
It's good with up the beanstalk. I thought it cost 3 mana.
No, it costs 6.
Whoa.
Beans
I'm just
sees
kidding.
the higher CMC, so it's 6.
Which is kind of crazy, and it's an instant too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, someone cast it against me today at instant speed, so I guess I knew that.
Yeah, so it's been making moves in Legacy with some cool Soul Tie decks, and then I have yet to try it in Standard, but we'll see if I find any slots for it. And even Modern, there was a Soul Tie Oculus deck that top aided a challenge recently, and that seemed really cool. So
Legacy mentioned on the Stanley podcast was not something on my bingo card. I will have to
Well,
admit.
you know, it happens,
Stanley
Sure.
was
It's
right.
okay.
I was not gonna say an aggro card, so here we are.
Stanley, what's your favorite Legacy card to have impact from
Oh,
the
oh,
Dragonstorm set.
from Tarkir legacy
Yeah.
card, Mox Jasper.
Ah, perfect. Good choice. Good choice.
Oh boy! All right, Ron, you got a card for us?
I do, but my deck of choice in standard really didn't get anything exciting, so I am looking forward to trying Voice of Victory in modern, though.
What is your obsession with the Voice of Victory? I don't know what that card does.
Voice of Victory is your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. It's a 1 and 3 for 1 and a white. Mobilize 2. So it drops 2 red 1/1 warrior creature tokens that don't get sacrificed until the next end step. So I'm looking forward to trying it in energy. It should synchronize well with the energy package.
All right, I don't disagree.
Nice.
I can see that. Goddess
You
Souls
gonna
triggers.
But
Goblin Bombardment?
since we're talking standard,
Yeah.
Well, we're trying
I've
Legacy
been,
too. I mean,
I know, a lot of legacy too, but I've been playing Gruul Leyline, and I don't think Gruul Leyline got a lot from this set.
Yeah. I don't think so either. My leyline list isn't changing. Nick, your list
Well,
gonna change?
no, I mean the card Snakeskin Veil. I don't know if you guys have seen that. That got printed in a Tarkir Dragonstorm. It's
Wait.
green for +1/+1 counter on a creature and give it hexproof as an instant. I think it might be a big upgrade to some of the other options we were using
That sounds
previously.
kind of insane.
I know.
You should probably play that instead of Might of the Meek.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an easy slot in.
I think someone had that idea before some major tournament, and it probably popped off, I think.
I don't know. No Order was really popular in that tournament.
Yeah. Actually, unironically, we did not record an episode after you won the spotlight.
Nope.
We did
first
not.
one.
Unironically, one. Congratulations to Nick on winning the spotlight. It was a few months ago now, but that's still amazing and relevant and exciting. And yeah, congrats, Nick.
Thank you.
No one can see me clapping, but I'm clapping.
We can hear Ron
Someone-
clapping.
That's
someone
right,
needs to
I am
calm
clapping.
down. This is a podcast, Ron.
The listeners have exited the stream.
Yeah, that does remind me, because I do remember, Snakeskin Veil. I was so glad I got to like be there through top 8 and like watch and just like be chilling right there. And I remember Snakeskin Veil being your card of the tournament, and I was so excited because that was one of the cards I kind of had to work to be like, Nick, trust me, play this card, just trust me.
While we're on the topic of it, though, I still think the funniest moment from the tournament was when I'm in top 8, win the whole thing. Everyone's congratulating me, like, oh, good job. I'm like, great. Like, we got a 7-hour drive home. Let's head. And then Stan's like, actually, I just drew in a top 8 of the RCQ. I might have to stick around. I'm like, what? I just win the whole tournament, and the first thing this man says to me is, actually, we have to stay a little longer for the RCQ. Like, okay.
Okay. First of all, it was a 10K, not just an RCQ.
Yeah.
Second of all, I'm certain my first words were not, we need to stay. I'm sure my first words were, congratulations, and this is crazy. I think it was once we calmed down, you were like, all right, so we're going to go, right? And I was like, what?
Well, I have some news for you. No, but I mean, it was a funny thing, but it was also really cool that we both had a good performance that day. And then Julian even top 32 that 10K. So
Yep. And drawing in is the reason that I was able to just like hang out for the whole top 8.
that's true. That's true. Yeah,
So
very
like
true.
the 702 was very convenient. Yeah, good times. Good times. Jacob, do you like any Tarkir cards for standard?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this Shiko card. It's a
Shiko.
5-mana 4/5 legendary spirit dragon. Flying vigilance says when it enters, exile target non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard. The enemy may cast the copy without paying its mana cost.
I saw that card for the first time today. My opponent cast it on turn 4, and then they died.
Yeah, I don't think it's like necessarily good against aggro decks, but I mean
No.
the fact
I
that
just-
I can, it's a 5-mana 4/5 flying vigilance, like decent stats, and you can flashback lightning helix, I guess.
I was gonna say I watched someone cast 3 lightning helixes in the first 5 turns because turn 5 they used this to flashback lightning helix, so that was pretty devastating for the red player.
I know. I kind of wish they just like reprinted like 5-mana Ojitai and just call it a day. But, 3-color dragons are cool.
Does that
You
mean
can
you're
ask
gonna do
Brian
some like
Kibler.
Jeskai control gaming?
No,
No.
absolutely not. I don't think you can pay me enough money to want to cast any counter spells in 2025
I
unless like they're Force of Will, Daze, or I don't know, Legolas's Quick Reflexes, which isn't a counter spell, but it has Split Second.
Legacy mentioned. This is good stuff.
This is a really good podcast.
I do, while we're on it, before Stanley tells us to get off it, I've been casting Force of Will lately. I like Force of Will. That's all I have to say about that.
All right, good talk.
I don't know. I think the hardest thing right now is like everyone's kind of like in the shiny object syndrome part of like a new release for a set. So like now that like all the Tarkir cards are finally online, everyone's trying to like figure out what like the best decks are, which we know in like a week and a half, 2 weeks, it's gonna go back to being like, oh, mono red, you'll have a new prowess strategy, then you'll have like new leyline strategies, and then you'll have, blue black and Demir bounce, and then, your Esper decks and domain will make its resurgence. So it's very hard to gauge how the cards are going to be good in each deck. I mean, Corey Steelcutter, phenomenal Magic card. Snakeskin Veil reprint, good.
Yeah, it is
Rakshasa, good card.
unironically exciting to like. At least Snakeskin Veil is going to be legal longer, so I am glad that it got printed here.
Which I don't really know why, because it's in Foundations, so it's like it's going to be there for
So the
5 years
thing that I
anyways.
just said is not even accurate. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
But
Edit that out. Edit that out.
no, it's fine. I don't do that. But the new flavor text on Snakeskin Veil, it's my favorite thing ever. I want to say that every time I cast it. Now I wonder, will anyone come to protect you? How cool would that be? And then you just Snakeskin Veil and they die? That feels like it would be fun. But I want to talk about Jeskai Control for like at least a brief moment. Maybe no one else will want to talk about Jeskai Control, but I have seen it a fair bit on Arena and Moto. They're playing the Shiko. They're also playing this new big blue dragon, a Meringue River Regent, which is a 6-mana, 6/7 dragon. When this creature enters, return up to 2 other target non-land permanents to their owner's hands, which is not bad. 6 is a lot, but it has adventure. I mean, Omen, but it looks like an adventure. But you don't get to go on an adventure. You shuffle it back into your deck. But the Omen's pretty good. It's actually an instant Omen. And draw 3 cards, then discard just 1. 4 mana. So I don't know if it's real or not. Like Jacob was saying, everyone has like shiny card syndrome. So maybe Jeskai Control will be a real deck. Maybe not. But it definitely exists at the moment. I'm curious if it'll stick around or if anyone has any feelings about that.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, I think the biggest problem right now is there wasn't like really a land cycle that really helps the 3-color decks right now. And then post rotation, you're really not going to have anything unless they decide to print something new in Final Fantasy. So it's like, why wouldn't I just play the deck with the absolute best 3-color mana base, which is Esper, which I think that blue-black control and Esper control like legitimately have legs. But I think the shiny object is like Lightning Helix is good against red decks, which Lightning Helix does not match up well against Screaming Nemesis. Like you might gain your 3 life, but it stops there. And so I'm kind of like, I'm really looking forward to like blue, black, and Esper people getting away from the tempo-based decks and the bounce-based decks and getting into more of like a, play big blue and black spells that like punish your opponent and then like you just destroy them with these cards. Or even Sultai. Sultai would be really cool too.
Oh yeah, I've seen a couple like Sultai control-y decks so far. They get to play Julianne's favorite card.
That's true. Yeah, I think, and kind of what Jacob was saying with the like 3-color bases, I think the Verges work for some of the 3-color series, but sometimes they can be bait too. Like you really want to play almost like a 2-color deck that's splashing for the 3rd color is the the 2nd color that the Verge taps for, because you don't want to rely on having your basic land type like you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think we only have 2 episodes before this, but I think I talked about how much I think the Verges are awesome. It makes like it's not every mana base isn't free, and there's a lot of intrigue to mana bases and keeps, and um, I think that's cool. And for example, it's really cool for Gruul, where we're kind of a green splash, and we basically have Mountain with upside, and then it's interesting that is it on the other hand being a full on two color deck. Um, right now, right now I'm testing four Surveil lands in my aggro deck, um, because surveilling is good, but more importantly, that helps me keep my verges online when I really, really need both colors in that deck. It's not like Gruul, where I can play mono red until like turn 4 or 5 on a regular basis, and it's not a big deal. Like, is it? I need both colors, and I need them now. And I think it's cool when we have like deck building challenges and things that kind of reward different deck building, and so I'm actually like super vibing with four Thundering Falls in my Is It aggro deck, which sounds unhinged, but that's like part of my brand. So I'm gonna keep testing it and see if it starts to catch up with me, or see if it continues to feel like the answer to my two color mana base that just really needs help.
Yeah, I think the verges make for interesting mana based construction. And it's kind of interesting challenges that you just stumble upon as you're practicing with a deck based around verges and surveillance and whatnot. And I think it rewards good mana construction, and it's just an interesting point of deck construction in general.
Yeah, I almost hope they don't print 10 more that are like reversed. I know some people are kind of hoping it's a 20 land cycle, but I like the challenge. I think it's nice, and I think it also kind of helps even things out. Like Boros and Rakdos, they still exist even though the mana is more challenging. And I as an aggro player, I really like that the Demir one is base blue, because they start with that, and I'm like, ha, you can't cut me down now. Um, so it gives both advantages and disadvantages to both sides.
It's something that I was like kind of I really like what Julian said because that's what I was going to say and what you've been hitting on, Stanley. And it's something that I noticed a lot during the standard season, whereas like during the Pro Tour, a lot of people were trying to play Jeskai Oculus. And I'm like, why? It's like, I think the blue white version is just better than all of this. And all of that was just like everything I saw online from that deck. And it's also a lot of the statistics I got from Japan where they like love playing that deck. But then also like a guy regularly at my shop that I played locally in Washington was just like cranking everyone just playing blue white, and just because the mana base is so much more consistent in that deck than it was in the Jeskai deck. And same thing with like Convoke. Everyone was like, I'm gonna play Jeskai Convoke, when then they were like, well, I can just play red white and it's that much more consistent. So I would really like to see something that's going to put the let decks have the ability to play like an actual 3 color deck vice a 2 color deck that's splashing for a third color.
Yeah. All right. Transition. What do you dislike in Tarkir? And what I mean by that, and it's tough because I think this is like an interesting and fun topic, but I don't have an answer for Tarkir, which is crazy because I'm usually kind of at the front of the pack with this. And for context, what I mean by dislike is, let's go back to Aether Drift, where they printed Momentum Breaker, which is an edict, but if your opponent doesn't have a creature, they have to discard a card. And then, oh, by the way, later, once you're done bouncing it, because you can bounce it, you can just like gain 3 or 4 life off of it. And it's just like, why is this card so pushed? Why is there so much text on it? That card, that card gives me fits. So that was my like enemy number one in Aether Drift, which we didn't talk about Aether Drift, but that's old news now. Um, Usually there's at least one, pushed black card that I'm like, come on, man. Did you have to do that? But I really don't feel that way at all. I look at Scavenger Regent and I feel a little nervous, but I don't hate it because I think it's like fair. So Scavenger Regent is another Omen dragon. For black black X, each non-dragon gets minus X minus X. So it's our board wipe for the set, but you need to spend 4 mana to get minus two. And there's a few 3 mana black cards that do that. So it's a little bit overcosted board wipe. It scales a little bit better with more mana and bigger boards. So it does for 5 mana kill Screaming Nemesis and Tersa Light Shatter. And then on the creature side, it's a 4 mana flying 4/4 ward. Discard a card. Which again, like, feels kind of fair. It's not a 4 mana 5/5. Doesn't have Death Touch or Lifelink stapled on it for no reason. It's a card that like very easily could have been my like, why did they have to print that? But it feels pretty fair the way it's printed. So I'm actually just like not bothered by any cards in this set, which is surprising. But I don't know. Anyone found a card they hate yet?
I'm kind of like rubbed the wrong way by like the land cycle and how like the blue one is so power crept over all the other ones for no reason. Like, why did we power creep the original Besage for no reason? Like, there's like every other the next cheapest activation cost for these lands is 3 mana, which is the Mardu one, which makes 2/1/1s when you attack with a creature. But this one costs 1 blue. But like the red one, in order to be an outpost siege, it's 4 mana. I think the green one or the black one is like 2 mana, but like I think that one's unplayable regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And then so it's like, why is the blue one like? I don't think it'll be like amazing in standard, but every other format it's legal in, like that blue card is like that blue land is just the best land that's been printed in a long time since probably the channel lands and Kamigawa.
Oh, Nick's feeling something.
I think the blue land is entirely overhyped, like egregiously overhyped. Actually, like I was agreeing with you at first because I thought your complaint was going to be the land cycle sucks, and I was like, yeah, the land cycle is pretty bad. And then you started off by telling me how the blue was OP. I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
well, I'm kind of the opinion that like I don't think it's like broken or anything, right? I think it is by far of those lands the best one, and I don't like how like that land specifically has the best text on it for the least amount of cost compared to the rest of them. Where it's like,
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, why don't they all suck or why aren't they all good? Like, I hate when a cycle is either all bad, like only one's good, when all of them can be bad or all of them can be good. Like, you shouldn't be picking and choosing when a cycle is good. Like, no. I think they either all good or all bad.
I can agree with that. I mean, reading them, the blue one is like good, and then the others are like unplayable. Yeah, like actually horrible. Like the black one maybe in like 2012 would have been good, but like in current standard, like I don't know if I'm ever doing this. There's a world I think the red one might be fine. I mean, 5 mana to quote unquote draw a card is crazy. Yeah. But like it's better than not having that option. You know?
I've been testing it a little bit and it's like playable-ish. It's hard because as we talked about, like the Verges, so again, we're not just haters here. We love the Verges, but this land cycle sucks. And it's hard because it's a really expensive for the effect, and you have to probably replace a basic land and make your Verges slightly worse by replacing a basic land. So I think in current standard, your opportunity cost of playing a utility land is a little higher than usual in your multicolor decks because you're reducing the chances that your Verge is online. So the red one is like on the cusp of playable, but I just don't like their design. It like enters tapped unless you control a basic of
Not
the
basic.
other two clans.
Just land type.
Well, basic land type, sorry. So it just like, oh, that's really strict. It's like a Verge, except you get 2 choices, but the punishment is so much worse. It comes in tapped if you don't. Yeah, I'm also not a fan of their design. It does feel like the green one. I guess green is a slightly awkward color for it, but isn't the green one like a somewhat power crept blue castle? Castle, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I guess technically, yeah, because they're both. It's green one's 4 mana Surveil 2, when Blue Castle was 4 mana Scry 2.
And
But
was the Blue Castle double picked?
it was,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
2 double
I
blue.
think the thing about Castle though is Castle like pretty much always came in untapped, whereas
Exactly.
like the green land's like usually going to come in tapped. But no, I mean I agree. Like I don't think like thinking about the ways they could have made these lands better. I think they become too good, right? Like if they're like, oh, untapped you control a mountain, like okay, now Monterey gets to play 4 of these and it's
Yeah.
free, you know, or like make it 2 mana activate. It's like holy shit, now we're drawing a card for 3 mana, you know. So like it's a hard cycle to balance. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed by the cycle in general. Like I'm a pretty big land guy. I mean, I like when lands come out, but like this one was just so disappointing. Like I was hoping for maybe Triome. Well, actually no, Screw Domain, but you know something spicy. You know, like
Yeah.
a little. You know, having the same tricolor lands as original Tarkir just being reprinted, and then you have like these crappy monocolored lands. It's like, I think the like Jacob said, there's some cool applications in Eternal formats for at least the blue one, but I can't imagine playing any of these in Standard, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
if you're
I'm a
like
land
me
guy,
and
too.
you know you're a Magic boomer and you like people paying thousands of dollars to play Standard, I wanted fetch land to get reprinted in Standard. That's just me, right? Like, you know.
Ugh. I remember when the set like first was getting revealed. I'm like working, and then Julianne's like, Nick, they're reprinting fetch lands. Like they're reprinting fetch lands with surveillance are legal. There's no way. And then we find out it's just special guests. But I was like, no way. Why would they do that? That's a
To
horrible
I'm
this
just
decision.
day,
happy they didn't bring back Delve as a mechanic. That is such a broken mechanic that should never be like ever done again. Unless you're like specifically only putting like Gurmag Angler and Hooting Mandrills back in the set, don't ever reprint Delve as a mechanic in the Standard.
Yeah.
Fair.
All right. Anyone else? Cards you dislike? Maybe you don't want to play against them, or like Jacob didn't like the design.
Yeah. I'll speak again.
Yeah.
Ugin feels like he's fresh out of Modern Horizons 4. I don't really know what they were thinking with this guy when it comes to Modern. Like, I don't know. Like, legitimately reading the card, it just reads like something that was accidentally left out of Modern Horizons 3 or was supposed to be in Modern Horizons 4 because, A, this card is pitchable to Ugin's Labyrinth, which is like an extremely, extremely high floor for a card, right? And then also, the card just reads insane. Like, the plus gains life and draws a card. It's like your worst matchup, like aggressive decks, like get they're you're a little better there now. It has a cast trigger, which is ridiculous. Like your opponent can just kill it immediately or counter it, but it still does something. And then the ult wins the game after 2 turns of it being in play. Like I don't know. Like I'm hopefully am proven wrong, and this card doesn't just take over Modern. But considering Eldrazi was already tier 1, the fact it gets this card to just play now, I'm just worried the deck's going to be tier 0.5.
Yeah, I was hoping that we would get out of the me having to play 4 copies of Consigned to Memory in the sideboard of every deck I construct in Modern. But I guess we're not. I guess Tron's back on the menu. Good for the Tron boys. Bad for me. I'm probably just going to play Burn and skull crack them when they cast a card and then kill them on the next turn. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
No,
like,
'cause
it's stupid.
People say that like, oh, like Consigned to Memory is so good against this card. Like, okay, like no, you have 4 copies of Consigned to Memory, and they have like 30 cards that you want to consign. Like, what are you, like you're just gonna like never consign anything until this card gets cast. Like, what are we doing? Like, and you say play Burn, right? But it's like this card is like insane. Like plus gain 3 life draw a card. Like what?
Yeah,
like that's
it's tough.
it's crazy.
There's,
Like
I noticed it because Nick is a very big Thopter Foundry gamer. So we've been talking a lot about playing a Thopter sword combo deck for this Modern season. And I'm like playing this deck a bunch. And I'm like, every time I play against Eldrazi, I have like a single copy of Consigned to Memory of 4 in my hand. And I'm like, what am I countering with this? Because like if I don't have pressure in play plus multiple copies of this card, I'm just going to lose.
yeah. I'll be playing a Thopter Sword tomorrow at the RCQ, and I'm not sure how my Eldrazi matchup is, but I'm a little definitely scared of this card. At least a lot of my cards are colorless, so it's not like they have many good targets. But
Yeah, my
I'm
strategy is
excited for you to
dodge.
play Thopter Sword. I haven't seen you like when you played Thopter Sword at that Dark Side RCQ. I had not seen you play Magic very much, and it was like cinema. Just you just played so fast. It took so many game actions, and I had a like loose, vague idea of what the cards did at best, and you just like continuously were just like it felt like every time I looked over, you were just popping off doing something. So.
I loved that deck. That deck
I
was
I
awesome.
can I can tell when you're playing it, so I'm really excited to play Vengevine for the first time, which is one of your favorite decks, and I'm
It
excited
is.
to finish fast enough, hopefully, to maybe catch you Thopter sorting some people.
Me too. Me too. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm very excited. Last time I played the deck, Ring was legal, so we'll see if that hole is missing. But I don't know. You have Mox Opal now, so I mean, it's a trade off for sure. But yeah.
Okay, Tarkir Standard. Anyone else got a card they don't want to play against?
Isn't the what is it, like Rakshas's Bargain or whatever it's called, the 6 mana card, or the Sultai, and then you can
Yeah,
pay 2 colorless, like
that's
that's a
Julianne's
cycle,
favorite
right?
card.
That's a cycle, right?
It is. The others suck.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So this brings me back to terrible design, right? You have to make a blue black X card the best one of a cycle, and the other four are unplayable for no reason.
You know what's
Also,
funny too is the uncommon one is really good, but also the common one is actually really good. Like I think the common one is like actually like on the edge of constructed playability, while like all the other common ones are just like draft chaff. Same with the other uncommon ones. But like the fact the
Oh
Sultai
no.
uncommon and common are both like pretty good, like that's crazy to me.
Oh, speaking of the common cycle, I'm looking at it and I see Monastery Messenger and I remember how the artist just gaslit all of us. I've like never seen, the artist basically previewed the art ahead of time and was, hyped it up, which like fair. They're an artist and the art is fantastic and they like don't have any notion of power level or anything like that, but it kind of inadvertently gaslit us all into thinking this was going to be an important card in the set. So like over at all the red servers were like flying Swiss spear, like one blue, 1/2 flying prowess, like give it to us, we're ready. And then it's just like stone cold unplayable. It was so heartbreaking.
Well,
Uh,
to be fair, I actually don't know if artists know what their card is
oh, they
going to
don't.
be.
They don't at all. That's why I was saying they like accidentally gaslit us. It obviously wasn't their fault. They made amazing art and justifiably so, shared it across the internet and we all got hyped, but of course as Magic players we're just like, is the card good? Like that's all we care about at the end of the day.
yeah, I
Um
think how the process goes is like Wizards will be like, we need XYZ artwork, and then like they'll submit a bunch of things, and then like it gets smacked on a card, which sucks because it's like, oh, I made this dope artwork, and then it goes in this like unplayable draft common, and you're like,
yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Looking ahead, looking at the RCs. That's what we're all thinking about. That's what we're all preparing for. I want to talk about our not too early, but still pretty early outlook on the RCs. I've been pretty vocal about really, really enjoying Is It Prowess, which is definitely the case. Corey Steel Cutter is an exceedingly powerful card, and that deck was, already a lot of fun and pretty good before Cutter got printed. We get to replace our worst card with now an insane card, which is awesome. So I'm really excited about that deck. It's not without its issues. Temporary lockdown is definitely an issue. It makes me nervous. We can spell pierce it. We have a little bit of other action against it, but overall temporary lockdown is definitely making me sweat about the deck, and that's why my number two deck, I really like the mono red deck with Terza.
Oh my,
Um,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
I think
That is what my number one pick, my number one recommendation to anyone who's going to the RC. If you get all this testing in and you're trying to think like, should I play Bounce? Should I play Demir? Should I play, Pixie? Should I play Domain? And you do not know, you sleeve up 18 mountains, 4 Rockface Village, 2 to 3 Soulstone Sanctuary, and the rest are red cards, and you are going to cook people because the ceiling and the floor on that deck is so good. Like, it is very boring to play, but like for someone who like me who knows the lines, who knows like everything, like how it's supposed to go, and like what hands are good, what hands are moles, what hands are mid, all that stuff, how to sideboard, which the sideboarding with that deck's super linear. Um, all you have to do is like I get to turn my brain off a lot of the time. And most of the time I'm done in 20 minutes. So you like if you're doing well, you save yourself so much bandwidth over the course of a long tournament that I highly recommend playing that because the girl deck has a higher ceiling, but I think the floor is much worse on the deck. Same with the leyline decks. And like, if you're playing mirrors, you already know that like it's going to be a grog. Whereas the mono red deck just gets to play, you could play 4 burst lightning, 4 shock for lightning strike, for Witchstalker's frenzy, 4 torch the tower, and you're going to cook people if you really wanted to. But that's my recommendation.
yeah, nice. I like I l- I really like a couple things about it. One, I didn't really love the direction that Mono Red was going with, let's play a million lands, let's main deck Sunspine Links, and Turso was, the other red card besides Corey Steel Cutter that I was excited about. And she just slots perfectly into that deck and fixes a lot of the problems I had with that version of the deck. Being able to, play your 23 lands and not be nearly as worried about flooding because you have 4 copies of a 3/3 haste that lets you discard 2 lands and turn them into the next 2 cards in your deck is really exciting. I've been playing a little bit of that deck, and I think just like I think Corey Steel Cutter was the precise card that Blue Red Prowess was missing, I think Tercel was the precise card that the mono red deck was missing. Not that it was missing anything. Obviously the deck was good, but it didn't really hit for my preferences until now this Terza version looks very, very cool. And the other reason I like it, and we'll see how much attention Corey Steel Cutter continues to get as we get closer to the RCs. But if Corey Steel Cutter is still, one of the hottest topics, then I think we're going to see a ton of temporary lockdown at the RCs. And playing the red deck that has 4 Screaming Nemesis and 4 Terza is really exciting to me into a field of temporary lockdown. Because if you're playing against split up decks, then those cards are just kind of, they are what they are. But when you're playing against temporary lockdown decks, the best thing you can do as the red player is play a 3-drop on turn 3 because it doesn't get sucked up by temporary lockdown. So, I'll be testing both decks. Some playing Gruul, Leyline, and Rakdos Leyline and all kinds of stuff. But, Blue Red Prowess has obviously been my favorite. And this Mono Red Terza has definitely kind of snuck into second place, both because I like the deck and because I think it's a good, aggro deck that beats the decks that are trying to beat the other aggro deck, which is often where I end up at RCs, is playing like the aggro deck that's good against the decks that are good against the most popular aggro deck.
I also think something that I know a lot of people were worried when the BNR happened was, well, we need to ban Heartfire Hero, we need to ban Monstrous Rage, we need to ban like XYZ things on these mice decks. But I think with the tools that you got in Tarkir Dragonstorm, you're going to see a big divide in the play style of how the aggro decks are. Like, you're probably going to see a mono red deck that like isn't playing Heartfire Hero or Emberheart Challenger because the deck just isn't constructed that way. And like, which means they're going to be cutting Rockface Village. They're going to be cutting. They might still play Soulstone Sanctuary because it's a good card, but like, not every deck that's red is going to be playing this nice package because it doesn't need it because there's so many tools in the toolbox now And that's something I'm super excited for. It's just being able to play different variants of the red deck and not feel like you're, stuck to one linear path, and I can kind of branch off in my testing.
Yeah, it's a great time to be a red player. It's a bit of a stressful time to be a red deck builder who's trying to, do really well at the RC in a month. I feel like I don't necessarily have enough time to, give every iteration the attention it needs. But man, it's a great time to be a red player. But Julianne, tell me about the not red deck, or maybe only a tiny bit red deck that you're thinking about for May.
Well, okay, so first, I think RC in general, my hot take is the top three of the meta share is going to be aggro of some sort, but like we just discussed, there's like a bunch of different versions of aggro.
That's a hot take.
Domain and a bounce deck, right? So, and some. Wait,
Julianne, I'm going to teach you the definition of a hot take real quick. That's a hot take is one that many people would not agree with you on.
Okay.
You just named the only 3 decks in the standard metagame.
Okay, so those, but no one let me finish. But I think the other category is going to be a very high percentage. I think at least like 30%. And then
What's going on?
okay, and then I think top 8 of the RC is gonna have 2 other decks in it at least. I think people are cooking.
I don't know what to say. Wait, so you said there's going to be 3 decks, and there's going to be a 4th deck that's 30% of the metagame?
No, okay, no,
She's
I'm
saying that other.
the
like,
other category.
Julianne is saying that the big 3 is going to make up 70% of the metagame, and that every other deck is going to make up 30%.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And then there's going to be 2 decks that slot in the other category that have made top 8.
Dude, we're a month away, and Julianne's already calling the top, and I love this.
I mean, I feel like if we were making an RC bingo card, a control deck or a combo deck making top 8 is like the free square. There was an Otters deck in the Spotlight top 8, blue white control and a Pioneer. It's just kind of the free square. The people who just dedicate their entire personality to those archetypes. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's me in aggro, don't get me wrong. But those people are really good at what they do, and so it doesn't matter how bad the archetype is in the meta. They're a force to be reckoned with on any day.
Okay, so maybe it's not a hot take, but that's my take.
I'm calling there's gonna be 4 copies of those 3 decks that we talk about, and by 4 copies I mean 4 decks that are some number of those decks that we just talked about. And then I'm calling 4 other decks, at least for Minneapolis, because Minneapolis is not that far away. And I'm expecting probably blue-white control to have a good turnout. I'm probably expecting some other type of control deck to be a breakout deck in the tournament, maybe like Sultai or blue-black, or maybe see the Terror decks come back.
I'm actually really busy gaslighting everyone. I'm 100% locked on just got control for the RC. The aggro post, it's all sleight of hand.
And then Omniscience, people forget Omniscience is a deck. People also forget that Oculus is a deck, and those decks are good. And as long as people can dodge XYZ sideboard hate or build your deck to beat the sideboard hate, you're gonna be solid.
I was actually going to mention. I'm sorry. I was just actually going to mention Omniscience because it's sitting at solidly 4, 5, 6% of the meta for the last month. So I could very easily see one of those decks getting into top 8 because it's going to be their pet and they're going to ride it.
I don't know how to follow that up. But there is a certain subset of people that haven't forgotten that Omniscience and Joculus are decks, and those are everyone and their mother who is registering Rakdos Leyline, and they're really committed to the bit, and they're all playing 4 Lay Out of the Void in their sideboard. Those people have not forgotten about those decks.
Oh my gosh!
Literally, the last thing I said before I hopped on this call was in your Discord. Someone posted the Rakdos deck again. It was Michael. Michael posted the Rakdos deck again, and I was like, If I see another person post this list with 4 letters of the voice, I'm gonna lose it. I'm gonna lose my
Yeah.
mind.
Which I have been advised I need to, be better about like advertising and not necessarily advertising, but doing the like content creator nonsense where I say things like follow and subscribe. So I'm gonna do a brief commercial break because this podcast is sponsored by Stanley's Patreon. Um, so Nick mentioned my Discord. Join my Patreon and you can hang out in my Discord. It's active and fun and we have a good time and talk about aggro and you get to ask me questions anytime you want. Nick's there. He knows a lot about aggro. Ton of great players. So yeah, I do the Patreon thing. I write guides. Come hang out. Come stop by. It's a great place to be. End of commercial. Julianne, tell me about this other deck
Wait.
that you're gonna. Oh, sorry.
No.
No, Nick, go.
No, I was just gonna say, your Discord has the winner of the last 2 major standard tournaments that are not Pro Tours.
That's true. Nicholas Odenheimer, who won Spotlight Atlanta, and Adam Weiss, who won RC Dallas, and I helped both those guys do it, by the way. So it is a star-studded place, no doubt about it. Sorry, I'm not good at that stuff. But what is happening, Nick? What is this?
I think he was saying you could segue to me.
Okay, yeah, that's
Well,
what
I don't know how the cameras are set up for everyone, but I'm just pointing at Julianne. Right
Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna try to do. So clearly, Julianne, your steaming hot take.
That's right. I forgot about that already.
The hot
Right,
take was
the-
clearly
the
a setup
lukewarm-
for you're going to be playing a deck in the other category. So
Yes.
tell me about it.
Okay, so I will be locking in a soul tie deck of sorts, but I think there are many good things that you could be doing with soul tie right now. Currently, I'm cooking up soul. I like to call it soul tie sea creatures, but a lot of people probably know it as soul tie terror because you play Talarian Terror and Eddie Merc Crab.
Or Sultai Beans. You're
Or
playing
soul tie
beans,
beans
right?
because you do play.
To be honest, by the way, you don't actually fall into the other category. I think most people are really bundling decks into like Rage decks, Beans decks, and This Town decks. Those are the big three. So sorry.
Well, where would you put the Venn diagram of this? Because Julianne is a this town and beast.
Wow.
I'm in the if you made a try diagram, right? I would be between this town
Yeah.
and Beans decks.
So
You're not
actually
too far off. Putting a Monster Rage and Talarian Terror seems kind of nice.
Yeah. You were actually testing a teamer version. You could just break the format. Play the 3 best cards in the format.
I could. We will see. Teamer, it's tough because this was my deck of the RCQ season, and I've been playing it for a while, and for a while the aggro matchup has felt like the hardest matchup. So I did try a teamer version that main decked Torch the Tower, and you had access to some maybe better tools in the sideboard versus aggro, and that was not that bad. I was very worried about the mana base, but the verges were good, and green gives you a lot of spells that can kind of fix the verge mana because there's a lot of like Analyze the Pollen, and Bushwhack gives you access to search for basic land types, so you can kind of get to select what you need at the time. So we'll see, but I like X sea creatures of some sort. So 1 mana 5/5 ward 2 is pretty good, and I really really wish they printed another type of Eddie Merc Crab, because if I could, I would be playing 8 copies of that card.
It's a good card, and Nick mentioned you cashed at Spotlight, and you cashed with Sea Creatures, and then if I remember correctly, after Spotlight you came home, and I think you won 2 RCQs in a row with it, because you're double queued,
Yeah.
and I don't think you
Not in
were
a
queued
row, but they
before
were very
Spotlight.
close.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a meme. It's a good deck if you play it right. So
Further
um,
proof that if you know how to play your deck, I mean, you just already have an advantage over people, right? Like you should, if you know your deck really well and your deck isn't caves, then there's a good chance you should probably just keep working with it.
yeah, I would say, being someone who spends a lot of time online talking to people, coaching people, doing, the Discord coaching and the actual coaching sessions, people spend an inordinate amount of time agonizing over card choices. And if you, took 50% of that time and dedicated it to like play patterns and fundamentals and just playing good Magic with the cards that are in your deck, you would just the return on investment on that is just absurd. Like deck building is fun. Obviously, it's one of my passions, but I think it's important to balance just like focusing on playing good Magic, because if you are a master of your deck and you understand the meta decks and you play good clean Magic, that's going to take you a long way, a lot further than just playing the same deck that Nick used to win the spotlight and hoping the deck will carry you. I'll step off my grandstand now. Nick, what are you going to play at the RC?
I don't know. This is probably the most indecisive I've been before a major tournament. I mean, usually I would say a month before the tournament, I usually already know what I'm playing, but I'm really not sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm locked into playing 4 copies of Monstrous Rage in my deck, but I would say that's probably the only card I've locked in at this point.
Is Leyline not locked?
No, Leyline's not locked, honestly. Cutter has been so good for me in my testing that I've like gotten off like, okay, maybe I don't need to be playing Leyline, but I definitely feel like I want to be playing like a Cutter deck, and so It seems really good for that. So yeah, no, this is like news to Stan. We talk every day about decks and stuff, and this has never come up in our conversation before. This is like the first time he's hearing it. But
I've asked Nick like three different occasions. Did you try Is It yet? No, no, okay. Like a few days later. Hey, do you think you're going to try Is It? Yeah, yeah, I'll probably play it. Like a week later. Have you tried Is It yet? Well, blah, 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 blah. So you haven't tried it? No, I'm not gonna play Is It. So like I'm
today
just
was the day I tried it,
oh
and coincidentally enough, the one deck I lost to was Leyline. So it's like reminding me about what I'm missing out on. But no, I mean, I after playing with the card Cutter, the card is just absurd. Like I've been trying it in the Rakdos Leyline deck, and I've been very impressed with it there. But there's definitely a weakness of it there because you can't trigger it as consistently as other decks. So like, if you can play a deck like Is a Prowess that is able to pretty much trigger it every single turn, I think that's a pretty good place to be in the format. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, this is probably the first time in the last 4 months that I'm not locked in on the card Leyline of Resonance. I would say it's still like my front runners are still Gruul and Rakdos Leyline, but Is It has crept its way up onto the list when it wasn't before. I mean, maybe I'll play Is It Leyline, who knows? But but yeah, I
that's not
think
gonna happen.
no, it's not. But yeah, when another thing too is like when Temporary Lockdown is the card that aggro needs to beat, it makes Spell Pierce a lot better.
I'm on 4 now. It's rare that I'll put 4 of a card in my sideboard, like unironically. I don't know how many times I've registered 4 of a card in my sideboard at an actual competitive event, but I'm on 4 Spell Pierce right now. It just like have to be.
Yeah, I mean Spell Pierce is incredible against bounce, all the stupid blue eye control decks that are popping up. Like I think Spell Pierce is in an amazing spot. I know you sent me your list. I couldn't find it, so I threw 4 random cards in for like my last 4 main deck slots. I had no idea what they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But after playing, I was like, oh, it probably should be Spell Pierce. I still don't know what it should be, to be honest. I think I threw Mockingbird in there, but I feel like that card sucks.
Oh my heart.
Am I wrong?
Okay. Sometimes we like go on a 30-minute tangent on aggro decks, and now that you're serious about Is It, that we have like infinite things to talk about. So I don't know, how much I want to dominate the
What
podcast.
is this?
Yeah, okay.
Hearth Elemental.
Yeah. Okay. But we're going to talk about a couple things. So, one, you bring up Mockingbird. First of all, Mockingbird is genuinely very good in the deck. Flying Swiftspear is very good, and the interaction with Cutter is that if you cast Mockingbird for X equals 0 and it's your second spell, Cutter's trigger resolves first, and you get to copy the monk when Mockingbird enters, even if your board is empty. And so you can very consistently make Mockingbird a 1-mana flying prowess creature, which is very good. However, having bad top decks in this kind of deck is not great. And as the game goes on, Mockingbird has the potential to be a bad top deck against decks that don't really play bombs. That said, I have made Flying Bezos before, which is better than it sounds because I'm usually drawing a card and occasionally making a treasure out of it. And I have won games with Flying Preachers before. So I do stand by Mockingbird. I think it's exceedingly cool because it is so good at copying your creatures in the early game, and many decks play cards that are more than worth copying in the mid to late game. However, it definitely has its spots where you're like, this card blows. But
Flying Shieldred is my personal favorite against Golgari. It's just, like, play a Mockingbird and copy your Shieldred, and they're like, oh, I can't beat that right now. And it's like, well...
You know what's even better, by the way? You spend 1 blue mana and make a 6/6 flying Demon Mockingbird, and then you spend 1 more blue mana and bounce their demon token, and now you have a 6/6 and they don't. And you spent 2 whole mana to make that happen. Like, Mockingbird is exceedingly cool. It may or may not make it into the final 75, but the like Mockingbird hate, no way. It's like very close. It's definitely in a contentious spot. The new tech, the spicy tech from OVC, Omar, my boy, is Hearth Elemental. And for those who don't know, Hearth Elemental is mono red questing druid, except sometimes it's worse and sometimes it's better. But Hearth Elemental has an adventure on it. The adventure costs 2 mana, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. Which in most cases is just draw 2 cards when you're playing a deck that is so aggressive and so good at just casting all its spells. And then the creature side is a 6 mana 4/5, but it costs 1 less for each instant, sorcery, and adventure card in your graveyard. Which means pretty frequently you have a 1 mana 4/5. And you might think, oh, Stanley, it's bad in multiples. But you can just cast your adventure creatures without casting the adventure. So I cast myself a 1 mana 4/5, and then I draw 2 off of the extra copy. And this card is just so much better than Stock Up because, one, I don't want to play any 3 mana cards in this deck. The number of games that I win with 2 lands in play, or I lose with 2 lands in play, is extremely high. Of course, the opposite is like we flood a lot, but like the liability of having 3 mana cards in a 20 land deck is very real, even if you're on 8 cantrips. And the really, really cool thing is that, one, it's an amazing top deck. If you top deck it, it's the same thing as like top decking a questing druid when you're hellbent. But, I got to pull off the dream. I had 2 cutters in play and drew a Hearth Elemental. And so now my top deck draws me 2 cards. Then for 1 more mana, I put Hearth Elemental in play and trigger both of my Quarry Steel Cutters. So for the low price of 3 mana, I drew 2 cards. I put a 4/5 in play, and I triggered both cutters to put 2/2 Haste Prowess in play. And I have 2 more cards in hand, and I'm going to draw a 3rd card before my next turn. So I'm probably ready to trigger Cutter again on the follow-up turn. It's just like perfectly on brand and really exciting. I feel like it's borderline like the thing that the deck was missing. It also doesn't die to temp lockdown. Nick is clapping for those who he's clapping at a respectable level for a podcast, but visually I can see it. You'll have to believe me.
I'm a big, you have to play it before you can have an opinion on it, so I'm not going to speak out of line here, but I am just going to say that I became visibly distraught when we made the comparison of Hearth Elemental to Questing Druid. The only thing that I will give Hearth Elemental credit, I'll give it credit for two things. One, you want to beat the card Temporary Lockdown. Hearth Elemental, does a pretty good job doing that. Two, Cutter, as I figured out, Cutter is very, very, very good with low cost adventure creatures, and so the fact that Hearth Elemental is just another game object that you can use to trigger Cutter, I think, is pretty interesting. I mean, there were times I was playing the Rakdos deck, I was just flinging random things just to like trigger my Cutters. Yes, you.
Yeah, I just want to briefly add in. By the way, if your Hearth Elemental costs 1 mana, now for 3 mana, you have a 5/6 trample haste cutter coming onto the board.
Sure.
If you have cutter and for whatever reason, let's say you use the adventure on a previous turn, you're hellbent and you can't trigger cutter, you can just cast Hearth Elemental and put cutter on it, and that's a big dude. Like Hearth Elemental reads terribly, but and I'm gonna pull rank or whatever. Like I'm the guy who made Corey Baumeister go two-headed hunter, standard all-star two-headed hunter. Like this Hearth Elemental is 2025's two-headed hunter. It just has precisely the same vibes, except it's way better.
Way too early to call it that, but I don't know if Hearth Elemental is winning the next RC. But...
I don't know either, but it has the same vibes as this, this looks like a draft chaff adventure, but it actually is just so perfect in the shell. Like, people lose their minds over how good Stock Up is, but it's not very hard for Hearth Elemental to be draw to and put a 4/5 in play for that same 3 mana, which is significantly better when you're playing an aggro deck. I'm excited for you to play it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try it. I'm not. Stanley knows I am in my irrational playing cards that don't die to nowhere to run or temporary lockdown era, and Hearth Elemental meets those requirements. So
it checks so many boxes. I'm excited for you to play it. It plays much better than it reads, and I love that you want to play it first. What do you got going on, Jacob?
I don't know. I think that this might just be like a post appendix removal drug induced epiphany you've had, and I don't know if we can take this seriously or not. I mean, like Nick said, you can't do anything without testing it first, but I don't know, man. I feel like when you say you're cooking, we're talking about Breaking Bad here.
Well, let me tell you, one, I've been casting it for, a day or so in this deck, which is not that much. But two, back in the Druid Burn era, I was playing Hearth Elemental in that deck, and it was, legitimately felt like questing Druids 5 through 8. Especially the second you're Hellbent, it is a questing Druid, arguably with upside, because it's just coming in as a 4/5 and cannot get eaten by temporary lockdown. Obviously, in an Eternal format, it's not a questing Druid with upside. But in Standard, where you have cards like Anoint with Affliction and Temporary Lockdown that are, played in droves, and Temporary Lockdown is the best card against you, and you're, very good at getting Hellbent, and very good at filling the yard with instants and sorceries, this is legitimately a it is a questing Druid level top deck when you are Hellbent. And it's probably better in a lot of cases.
The biggest problem that I'm seeing with the card is most of the decks so there's 3 decks that play Temp Lockdown pretty consistently, and that's Bounce, Domain, and Blue-White Control. And Blue-White Control and Domain are just gonna ride down your Heart Elemental, and you're like, oh. I mean, you still drew 2 cards, right? You probably triggered your Cutters, right? Whatever, right? But
yeah, exactly. It's not whatever. That's 2 cards
Lockdown.
and triggering Cutters. I can't tell you how many times, I have enough resources to sequence through the first lockdown and kind of bounce back from that. And then the second lockdown is the thing that, ends the game for me. And so when part of my second wave of threats is a massive 4/5 that can't get eaten by lockdown, that's awesome. And equipping Cutter onto Hearth Elemental is very non-zero to give that fatty haste. And people won't see it coming.
That I think the people want to know, Stanley, which is, why are you registering Aether Drift, Draft Common All-Star, Bounce Off, Vice into the Floodmaw like every other person I've
Bounce
seen
off
test this deck
is
on the.
great.
Okay, so one, it's not a locked slot. I started, so I, with Aether Drift preview season, said, hey guys, Is It Prowess looks sick. Here it is. And, I'm just going to say I was the first one putting Is It Prowess out there in Standard. And I started with Into the Flood Mall. And I gave gifts precisely 0 times. Because Into the Flood Mall, well, no, sorry, I'm going to stop there. I gave gifts 0 times. The reason that Bounce Off is even like remotely playable is because you can target your own creatures. And so in a pinch, you have yourself a protection spell that doesn't lose in combat to Nowhere to Run. And after switching from Into the Flood Maw to Bounce Off, while I gave 0 gifts, on several occasions I found myself bouncing my creature in order to win games, especially because Bounce Off is a really exciting card in the red matchups. It's a great way to counter Monstrous Rage, and it's especially good against the leyline decks because you just like let them resolve all their spells, and then you're like, haha, bounce. And on several occasions where the red player is trying to, let's say they Alpha Strike and try to Witchdoctor Frenzy my creature, I bounce my creature back to my hand, recast it, kill them with it. And so, like, functionally, in testing, it came up constantly. However, because of, one, I can't bounce tokens, and now I've got Otter tokens and Monk tokens. Half my creatures are tokens now. And temporary lockdown is public enemy number 1. So I am back on Floodmaw on a like testing basis. I think the really important thing is that Floodmaw can be used as a spell pierce against temporary lockdown. If you don't use it as a spell pierce on temporary lockdown, Floodmaw is bad against lockdown because you just like get your stuff back. Maybe you get a kind of weak attack. But again, we have tons of tokens, so those tokens are gone forever. So the only way that Floodmaw beats temporary lockdown is if you bounce Floodmaw with the ETB on the stack and you never lose your creatures in the first place. So using Floodmaw as a like bad spell pierce is potentially going to win you games. And it's worth testing because even without lockdown, like using Floodmaw on a well-timed Zur can also potentially win you games. So I am going to test that in the domain matchup, but functionally, Bounce Off was just better because bouncing my own creatures was more relevant in the matchups where I wanted to play the bounce effect. Against domain, I like found that the less cards I brought in, the better I did. I just wanted to, JFKT, just fucking kill him. So that's why I, initially pivoted to Bounce Off, and that's why I never got off Bounce Off. But I am going to test Floodmaw again and potentially play, at least a couple. I'm not going to bring in 4 Bounce Off against Domain. That's or 4 Floodmaw against Domain. That's too many. But however many copies of that effect I'm comfortable with bringing in against Domain, that many copies will be Floodmaw instead of Bounce Off.
If you want to check Discord real quick, Stanley, I queued up a game. Hearth Elemental came in clutch for me. He drew 2 cards with my empty hand on turn 3, and then I drew into another Hearth Elemental. Then I played some 4/5s for 1 mana. It's like Arena wanted me to really see the glory of this card because it was like actually perfect in the literal first game I played.
They're literally right here. I got them. And 2 of them are foils, so you can.
Oh man, you're ready.
I'm telling you, it's. I like I said, it was OVC who was like, Stanley, what about Hearth Elemental? And just the second he said it, I was like, I can't believe I forgot about my boy, because he was so good in Druidburn. It was legitimately like having Questing Druid 5 through 8. So I was obviously very high on prowess and have been the whole time, but I went on kind of like a losing streak as I was testing various different things, and the deck is like not unbeatable, especially when now it's very popular and people are kind of ready for it. And I felt like, I don't know, I gotta fix something. There's something not right. And I think Hearth Elemental, and I made some mana based changes that I won't, bore everyone because we've been talking about is it prowess now for a long time. But it feels like the deck is getting really close, and Hearth Elemental is gasoline. I don't know if it's going to be 4 main deck like I'm playing right now, but I suspect there'll be 4 in the 75.
I'm very excited to start because for people who don't know, every RC I've played, and I've just queued a Stanley deck, just because they're very consistent, and I love what Stanley builds, and I have a lot of faith in what they provide, and I haven't had good success with them just because I got the wrong end of the spectrum. But every time I did queue into a deck that's supposed to be a good matchup, I was like, get them. But I am probably going to be queuing mono red like I talked about. If I'm not queuing Is It Prowess, or I'm going to completely pivot and play a control deck that no one will ever think that I will play, and I don't know.
Play if prowess is broken, I'm gonna tell everyone, and we'll all play it. If it's not broken, I think mono red Terza is really good. I'm gonna be playing that deck because 2 of my coaching students, I don't know what to call them, but 2 of them are locked on. Well, 3 of them actually are locked on mono red. No, 2, sorry, and so I'll be like working on that deck as my number 2 no matter what, because I am helping them get prepared, and I think mono red Terza is awesome. So
I don't know if anyone's going to convince me to jam 4 Sunspine links in my main board though. Like, I don't think that's happening, but
No.
I definitely think that I will be playing I'm going to 100% probably going to be playing a deck that involves 4 copies of Monstrous Rage, and then I
the
don't know.
4 Terza deck is just basically the 4 links deck, except 4 Terza instead of 4 links. It's perfect. It's amazing. I love it.
I'm very high on Lightning Strike right now, just because of how good it is in the red mirrors. So I would like to play a deck that plays 4 copies of that card.
That's fair.
Also, I get to show off my gorgeous F&M promo Cowboy Bebop Lightning Strikes.
Oh, so. You have the Bebop Lightning Strikes?
Yeah.
You have to play mono red at the RC now.
Exactly.
That's sick.
I told Stanley at his house in October, like early October, late September. I was like, listen, if you tell me a red deck is broken, I am going to play it. And I stayed true to that. And he was honest with me that his choice for DC was not broken. And so I didn't play it. And I queued for the Pro Tour with Phoenix. And then when we're testing for the Spotlight, we were both very convinced Leyline was... Well, I want to say very convinced. We were both relatively convinced that Leyline was the best thing to be doing in Standard. And so we played it, and we both had very, very good success with it. I'm going to agree with Jacob Knight here that whatever Stanley tells me to play, I probably will. I feel like I've gained some aggro knowledge myself that I don't have to hold myself to that standard, but I still do believe that when Stanley thinks an aggro deck is the nuts, it's probably true.
Yeah. Thank you. And I appreciate you calling out that I'm honest in my assessment when it's not, and I didn't, make you play the deck that I was like, yeah, this is the best aggro deck that I can come up with, but it's not broken. I did the same with... I liked Is It Prowess in Aether Drift Standard, but I didn't think it was broken. And that's exactly what I told, Adam when he was preparing for the Pro Tour. I was like, I like this Prowess deck a lot. I think you should try it and see how you feel about it. But I don't think it's broken. So I try to be, pretty genuine and honest, and I try to be a Magic player first and a content creator second.
I think it's really funny that Nick mentions DC, because it's like I played what Stanley recommended, and then now that we're looking at Pioneer now, which is a dead format, unfortunately. I don't know how none of us did not see the just play Mice and Pioneer and crank everyone. I don't know how no one saw that until now.
The biggest thing, and we're closing in on an hour and a half, so we'll probably need to wrap up soon. But the biggest thing is that people didn't know how good Nemesis was. And when I say people, I have to include myself. That's like the one red card I've missed on is since I have been, playing aggro over the last few years. It's really funny to see all the like Monstrous Rage, like, oh, ban Monstrous Rage, it's broken. Like, it took me 6 months to a year to convince people to even play Monstrous Rage, and now people are like kind of rewriting history and being like, it's broken, it's always been broken. Like, I think I have like above rate card evaluation, and right now we're swimming in Cutters and Tersas, and I said, hey, by the way, guys, Cutter and Tersa are going to be really good. But Nemesis completely. The thing about Screaming Nemesis is we were all so focused on the life gain text that we didn't really consider how good Boros Reckoner with haste was going to be. And I like kept getting close to coming to that conclusion. I remember a couple times thinking, I should test Nemesis more because I think Boros Reckoner with haste is probably pretty good. But I just like, for various reasons, didn't have the time and didn't like... didn't convince myself hard enough because there were a lot of us who thought Nemesis was pretty mid because you had to work very hard to take advantage of the ability. But that's really what happened in DC for Pioneer Red decks. Is it was just like the idea that you could use Nemesis as your centerpiece was not in anyone's head, really.
Also,
Yeah.
I do want to make a statement. Approximately like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, I played Stanley's Aether Drift version of Blue Red Prowess, and Stanley can attest. All I said was, this deck sucks. I will probably never play this deck again. I hate River Pyre Verge. That card sucks. Which my statement still stands. River Pyre Verge should tap for red first, but you can't get everything you want.
It does.
Are you tapping it wrong in paper, bud?
What are you talking about?
River Pyre Verge is default red.
Oh no, sorry, blue.
Yes.
I need it to be blue. I need it to be blue.
Why do you need it to be blue?
I need it to be blue.
Get this guy out of here.
Or I just need to.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. All right, Ron, what are you playing at the RC, bud?
Well, what seems like a way back discussion now, but talking about playing what you're comfortable with, Leyline got me the invite, and I've been playtesting Gruul Leyline and playing a lot of Gruul Leyline, and I will probably be registering Gruul Leyline. I did mildly complain that the deck didn't get a lot of help out of this latest set, which, it is what it is, but I think it's still a very strong deck, and it feels good, and, I'm hoping to do well with it.
Yeah,
and you did get a card that replaces Giant Growth, though, so...
Shut up, Jacob.
Giant Growth?
I gotta
First
say...
off, I never played Giant Growth in the deck because I know how to play Gruul.
Let me give Ron a compliment too. When we were paper playtesting, Ron handed me his deck at some point because someone wanted to play against Leyline, and we love Ron because Ron will be like, yeah, Stanley Nick, I'll play your deck list, and then he'll bring the deck, and there's like, I don't know, 3 to 7 cards different, and it's always a surprise what Ron's gonna do with the deck list. And Ron handed me his deck, and I was playing it. And at one point, I just go, "Man, Ron really cooked with this build because it just had everything in it." Like I have the Manifold Mouse, and I'm like, "Oh, this is like the mouse build." And then I draw a card, and I'm like, "Hey, Questing Druid's here now, awesome!" And then I like Seek the Beast, and I can't remember if Swift Spear was in it or not, but it just like. I don't know what the actual numbers were, but as I was just like playing the deck and drawing the cards, I was like, "Oh, Ron's just playing all the good cards." Like Nick and I are stuck debating, like, do we play this? Do we play that? And Ron's just like, "Porque no los dos." So I like what you cooked up. I'm glad you're sticking to Gruul Leyline. I think there's Nick and I both have Gruul Leyline on our short list still, even though we're talking about all this exciting new stuff. So I think it's a great choice, and whatever spice you sprinkled over your latest 75, I did enjoy playing your deck.
Well, I have to say that makes me happy. There's not much that I consider too spicy, but I'm glad you enjoyed playing with it.
It's gonna have some Hearth Elementals in it next time you're there.
No.
Please no. Yeah. Good.
No, it will not.
No, you
I got
can't
the
copy
Cell
that
Sword
with
and some
Leyline.
Snakes can avail in my hand. Let's get rid of those. Let's draw two new cards. Doesn't let a temp lock down. We'll be fine.
Excellent. So we like we like Tarkir. Don't dislike much. That's where we're at on the RCs. Um, I don't know. Anyone have anything else interesting they wanted to say but didn't get a chance to say?
No?
Awesome.
Good luck at your RCQs this weekend, everyone. Have some fun playing some Modern.
Just for anyone who does listen, I received an email about it, but I got registered for Minneapolis, but I'm not going to Minneapolis. So my email specifically said that they'll email me back about, re-upping me, making sure I'm going to Hartford, but there's like a go, no-go date in the email I received, so make sure y'all are actually checking y'all's emails and going to the RC that you want to go to if you're only qualified for one.
Yeah, that's a great point. Definitely check your email, read the email, follow those directions, and yeah, we're back. This is I think we'll probably target bi-weekly for the podcast, so we'll be back again at least once before the next USRC, and maybe we'll come pack in some tips for RCs. But thanks for listening. Do the follow, and subscribe thing, please. That's cool when people do that. We love and appreciate you guys and appreciate your support. My Patreon exists. I'm Stanley2099.
And I'm Nick.
That's Nick. And nobody else wants to say that they're people. So
Stop.
the rest of the crew, same as last time. Jacob, Julianne, and Ron. Cue the outro music.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da.
And, all right. Creative Juices
Yay!
exited. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.